You might remember Shohei Kondo from that time that YouTube tried to shut down his reaction video to gameplay footage of the Assassin's Creed Shadows game. They accused him of hate speech 7 times over. Remember that? Yep, same guy. He apparently wrangled an interview with an Ubisoft Insider, and this is the conclusion of that interview. And the reason why I'm reacting to this video as opposed to just cutting clips from it is because because Shohei just he does great faces. Like, look at this. This is hilarious. He's like got that suffering for your sins look, like I am just here trying to deliver the truth. It's such a good look with that. The other thing is that Shohei presents this person with with an AI voice that I find kind of is well chosen at least. It's sort of it's not this real person's voice, it's their email correspondence. It's been run through a filter. And so, well, it's been run through the AI like text to voice situation. But the way that it's delivered here is really, I don't know, it's really humanizing. I'm not trying to fall for the machine, but it's a lot better than having Shohei read the quote himself, then respond to the quote, and then that kind of thing. It's delivered well. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this. They're about to talk about the ASO shrine. So I believe it could be ASO. I'm sorry, it could be ASO. I believe it's ASO. Could be ASO. My apologies. The shrine that was featured in the concept art book. So here we go.
In Japan, a lot of people are talking about the concept art recently leaked, and it used Aso Jinja that was broken because of the Kumamoto earthquake, and they mentioned about it.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the outrage online regarding this artwork. I do know a little about how Ubisoft handles the topic of concept art from coworkers' experiences. The process of using real photography or other art as source material to build another concept piece is very common in the industry.
So I want to just address this because before we get too far into this quote, because we hear this a lot from people in the comments section. Particularly, we heard this around when they were showing off the flag there with the Sekigahara Rifle Corps flag. I forgot their name for a second. Sorry, it's just a lot of names. So it was the Sekigahara Rifle Corps flag that found its way into the concept art book. And then there was that back and forth in the email. And so during that, a lot of people showed up in the comments on the videos about that and were explaining that, yeah, no, just going out there and ripping pictures and tossing them in there is pretty common. You want to get mad at Ubisoft for doing something you do every other concept art game? It's like, well, I kind of do actually, because there's no need for it, really. Somehow, right? Other games were able to do all this without taking things that were culturally important and putting them into things they wanted to make money on. Again, internal concept art can do whatever it wants. It's when it gets out into the public that's the problem. And Ubisoft decided they wanted to print this concept work, okay? So that means that they fully wanted the public to know about this stage one, okay? So they went and ripped all this stuff. What did they think was going to happen?
Some art teams use it more or less depending on their personal preferences. Each concept art piece is reviewed by the artist's manager, who will ask questions about it and should identify the origin or inspiration for the work. In the specific case of the ASO shrine, we can only speculate whether the creator or the lead was aware that this inspiration was in poor taste or subject to cultural outrage if it were to go public. Keep in mind that the majority of these concept arts are made for internal use only, so some might consider it acceptable to use them. However, the moment a concept art piece is considered for public use, it must go through Ubisoft's legal team for validation.
Which, again, this apparently managed to leak through. The Sekigahara Rifle Corps flag managed to leak through. All right, now we find that the Aso Shrine, I believe it's Aso, the Aso Shrine also made its way through, okay?
The creator of the art might not even be aware of this. The legal team's job is to avoid problems like this, which in this case, they completely failed to do. This happened in July 2024. At this point, I'm sure they were asked to be extra careful in the future for AC Shadows, which they have once again failed to do with the ASO Shrine.
What a surprise. Okay, so this is again another thing that keeps repeating over and over and over again with these people is that even the legal department ends up tripping over this stuff. So what exactly is Ubisoft focusing on? Because it's quite obviously not following its own rules.
You might think I keep putting the blame on Ubisoft's publishing department, while as a developer myself, I am protecting my own peers. In reality, I am focusing on the publisher's role in the release of a game because I think the public knows far less about their work than they do about the developers.
And so this is very important. All right. One of Shohei's wonderful faces, by the way. What a great face to make. But sorry to freeze you there, pal. But the situation is that this insider makes a great case is that we often look at the devs and we go, okay, so they made the decision to make it look like this. They made a decision to make it look like that. And while that is partially true, right, I'm not going to wash the devs' hands on this situation because somebody had to bring that to the big boss and say, this is what we interpreted from your assignment, right? On the other end of this, I want to make sure that we understand that like this insider that Shohei is talking to is underlining the problem that like what we saw with Concord and Firewalk Studios. That the big boss, being Sony, will come through and say, "This is going to be the greatest thing ever. We needed to do this, 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 and this. Okay, we need to do all these things," and they did it. And guess what happened? And so this is what Shohei is talking about. Is that he's talking about like these um, middlemen, I guess, and probably the top end too, like all the way up there with Alexis Cotier. It's probably not just Dumonte and Benoit. It's probably also Alexis Cotier there, Mark Alexis Cotier, and probably him too, that are like issuing these edicts out that we've got to do X, Y, and Z. We've got to make sure that we have an overweight sumo wrestler that's a woman in this setting because got to teach those Japanese that they were wrong, you know. Again, you can Google this right now. That even I think it was recently, within at least the past 10 years, there was some type of medical incident that happened at a sumo wrestling competition, and female paramedics took to the ring, and they were ordered out of it, and then they had to salt the ring because they had um, made the ring not pure. They had stolen its purity, as they determined with that, and so we end up looking at this through a very different lens here in the West because we go, aha, sumo wrestlers are fat and strong. That's what we do because we look at E Honda and ta-da, that's it for sumo wrestlers. That's the only point of reference we have is good old E Honda, and that's it. And even though in the time period, again, like we talked about with these sumo wrestlers, in the time period, they were samurai. They were not like sportsmen. This process, excuse me, I just have a little bit of a thing going on. Maybe you do too. Hit like and subscribe if you've got a little thing going on too, like right around here. Yeah, anyway. So Ubisoft went ahead and decided that all sumo wrestlers throughout all of Japanese history were overweight. It's that simple. By introducing to us Yaya, I think that's her name, is Yaya. Yaya, yeah, that's her name. Yaya. I think that's Yaya. I believe that's how that was supposed to be pronounced. Yaya. Or it could be Yaya. Ya. I'm not sure, but I think it's Yaya, like Yaya Han. If you're under 18 years old, don't look up that name, okay? I just want to let you know, all right? Just don't, because your parents aren't going to understand that that's cosplay. They're not going to understand that that lady walked around convention centers looking like that, all right? Because there's a lot of lady there, okay? But there again, you look back at Yaya, the sumo wrestler now, there's a lot of lady there too, in an era where people were starving. And what we have here is what if we went out and we made a video game that said, you in the Irish potato famine, all right, you in the Irish potato famine. Here is this gigantic fat person who is going to be one of your saviors, okay? Right? And so what then? What are you doing then? You're insulting these people's history that there was this person who apparently had all of this abundance and was able to have such a robust body and strength in an era where that was simply not possible. And so, or at least not possible for a monk, a Buddhist monk to be doing. You kind of Buddhist monked wrong if you're that size, okay? And at least in this time period when there was a lot of starvation, you're kind of doing it wrong, you know, if you're that size. And again, like regardless of how people are in the modern age, I am talking about this time period that Ubisoft said that they tried to replicate authentically. What is authentic about poo-pooing the Japanese original tradition of the samurai being the sumo wrestlers? Okay? We talked about this before. Now they've also introduced this trans samurai that is proud of being a Ronin. This Ibuki character. We talked about that character in a previous video. Ubisoft's trans samurai. I'll put that in the end of this video. You'll see a little box pop up over on the right-hand side of the screen to recommend that video to you. You can check it out. But Ibuki walked away from the samurai. That's right. That's how Ibuki became a Ronin. He was this person could have been a she, because apparently anybody can be a samurai. You got good old Yeya over here being a samurai for the time period, right? Because sumo wasn't really a sport, right? This wasn't a separate classification. In order to be sumo, you had to be samurai. So that means female samurai. There you go. They found a way. They found a way. So either way, you get Ibuki now, who's just like, oh, this is too stuffy. These guys are too square for me, man. I'm out of here. I'm breaking the scene. I'm gonna go wear girls' clothes. All right. And that's what Ibuki did. Just walked off, you know? And that's not how you become a Ronin. That's not. Your lord either dies or you are thrust out of it. You train your whole life to become a samurai. You are, as a young person, consider, like, as a young person, this is your total focus in life. If you know anything about how the Spartans were brought up, it's not too dissimilar from that, with these very, very intense training regimens that begin when you're very young. It's one of those things.
I have two point of view in this case. As an artist, I have the artist background. Yes, the tracing is everywhere. Sometimes people use it just for tracing, but some people use it conceptually like a collage. But in this case, as an artist, tracing is pretty understandable. But as a Japanese, it's a culture thing, I think, but we wanted to see more respect because we've seen a lot of unrespect part in this game, right?
Yeah, and again, like, we get comments all the time. There's fellas over on Facebook that lose their minds when we post videos about this. How dare someone who looks like me talk about Japanese culture? Well, here's a real deal Japanese man right there, Shohei Kondo, in the flesh with his New York Yankees hat, believe it or not. Real deal Japanese guy saying, hey man, don't dig this. This isn't working for us. In fact, here's examples of my people not liking this. And yet we're told that there are no Japanese that have any problem with this whatsoever, that it's people who look like me that are just making it all up out of nowhere. And see, this is the biggest problem with this discussion is it doesn't matter what we talk about. It doesn't matter if it's Yasuke, doesn't matter if it's Japan's history, it doesn't matter with how this is being perceived by the Japanese in the current time. It doesn't matter that they're releasing the game on the anniversary of the Japanese subway sarin gas attacks. That was the nerve gas attacks in 1995. Okay, that's when they're putting this out, by the way, the same date of the Japanese sarin gas attacks. Ta-da! Then that just was apparently okay with the Ubisoft legal department and publishing. They were like, yeah, that's fine, that's cool. Amazing, truly amazing. And again, so you have this person right here. This is Shohei Kondo, living in the flesh Japanese man, demonstrating for these people in the comments section on both of these platforms that insist that people like me are just making this up. Well, here's Shohei Kondo, and he showed screenshots of his own people having problems with this art book, at least. Again, you must understand that just because someone you trusted on the internet said it's true doesn't mean that it's true. I invite everybody to do the research that we do around here. That's why I show you guys everywhere we go. That's why I haven't cut out Shohei Kondo's channel here. I want you to go and find him. I'm going to put the link down to it below. I want you to verify this information, to watch the full video without me interrupting it when you want to find out this information. The reason being is that you have to inform yourselves. There's no more just waiting for somebody to trot out the truth and be like, well, that's easy enough. I'm going to get back to the Starbucks now. You just can't, you have to inform yourself now. And that's what we're doing here. This is what Shohei Kondo is doing. Remember, I did a video yesterday about this. You can check it out, the USAID video, where USAID was hunting down organizations like Bounding Into Comics, that's right, our website, our YouTube channel, and many others, for us noticing a pattern and establishing a populist expertise around that. And that's what Shohei's doing here. He's noticing a pattern on behalf of the Japanese people, and he's establishing a populist expertise around that. No, he's just relaying what he noticed because that's what journalism is. What a surprise. You notice something, then you talk about it. That's journalism 101. I mean, what was Edward R. Murrow in the bunkers during the London Blitz just reciting row, row, row your boat? No. He was down there covering the bombs hitting London because he noticed a pattern and all this boom, boom, bang, bang, and all the shit falling from the ceiling. Yeah, guess what? That's bombs. Yeah. It's not that hard. And yet we keep getting demonized about this. And it makes me very angry because people like us over here in the West that do have a respect for Japanese culture end up being demonized for some reason. Like, they tell us all the time, oh, you're uncultured. You Americans can't even find Japan on a map. And yet, when we demonstrate that we do have respect for this culture, we're called some type of white savior when we're actually demonstrating the concern that someone who is invested in this culture would demonstrate. I ask you, think to yourself for just a moment, what is the problem with taking an interest in a foreign land? You are not going to commit violence against them. You are not going to destroy their way of life simply through observation. And by the way, you just might learn something that might help your culture on the other side. I've noticed many similarities between the northern Japanese and Maine, where I live, okay? It's pretty similar. We have a pretty similar culture. Sure, we lack the samurai and the fancy trains, but at a ground level, how we are every day, it's pretty similar. I can't point that out, though. I can't talk about that because then I'm a white savior for doing that. I'm culturally appropriating somehow, but Ubisoft deciding to rewrite Japanese history for funsies, yeah, and poo-poo anybody who disagrees, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's cool. For a profit, by the way, for a premium profit.
So we know. They made a statement, like a sorry but not sorry statement. But after that, seeing what they did feels like they're really not sorry. So I have like a both perspective about it. But as they said, it might use for just internal communication only. We don't know. But if they are going to publish the book, they really need to change this a little bit. Even they trace that things. That's kind of respect. So here, next one is not question. I asked them some message, like I want to express them whatever they want. And this, I really want you to listen. That's the message for Ubisoft from them.
At Ubisoft, we've been told many times, our number one priority is and will always be to protect our employees from any sort of violence or harassment online.
Right, because violence and harassment are the biggest problem with this game. What I want to make clear is that it is not okay to go out and harangue these people. As you can see, they make a pretty big deal about it inside and outside of their companies. So it's not a good idea to go out there and harangue them. What you can do is in the comment section and out on the wild, you can leave opinions about their work. That's what you can do. Getting direct with them is only going to fuel their fire and distract people from the mess that they've created in order to shovel that mess over onto you now. So don't bother with them. Go ahead out, take screenshots of the kooky things that they're saying, the kooky things that they've created, and go ahead and tell people about it. That's what the USA department didn't want us to do. It's dangerous, when you go creating populist expertise, you see. That's just stuck in my craw forever. That just annoys the hell out of me. But here we are. We're looking at this right here. They're going to protect their employees from harassment and violence. Now, again, good idea to do that. But the other problem is they define harassment as people just confronting them over the things that they've done. If you asked most of these developers what they thought about the conversation online and they weren't contractually obligated to say things that are smoother than a soap bar, they would probably say, I'm very uncomfortable when people talk about Yasuke. I don't think that they're arguing in good faith. And that's what they'll tell you, that they believe there's some type of racist aspect to objecting to having this man who was an African slave, to what we understand, an African slave who was brought to this land against his will, sold to another man, then turned into a samurai, then paraded around as such, again, a samurai in form only. We were told that he was just really scary to have around because the Japanese people had never seen him before. And then 15 months later, this character was moved on. The Oda Nobunaga was, I'm trying to figure out a YouTube safe way to say this. He Sudoku'd himself, if you will. And that meant that Yasuke was no longer protected, if you will. And so once this conflict was taken care of that involved Nobunaga's passing, Yasuke was dismissed. To our knowledge, he left. Not much else is known about him beyond that. In fact, we only have 3 paragraphs about the guy. But Ubisoft decided that's a really cool concept of a human being. I'll remind you, that was a human, real human guy, lived and breathed, that Ubisoft decided that's a really cool story, really cool setup but it's really boring how it turned out. So we're going to take this person's real life and crank it up from a 5 to a 19 and turn him into a clown that runs through buildings and slices walls in half and can just smash people's heads like a Gallagher performance where you just smash the watermelon and everything goes everywhere. You just baseball bat people's heads clean off their shoulders. Yeah, yeah, that's what they did to a real man. That's what they did to a real man. Consider for a minute what this would be like if they went after John Washington Carver, the guy that did peanut butter, right? And they would think like, or Carver Washington. I think it was George Washington Carver, right? I believe that's how his name was that came up with peanut butter. That fella. Imagine if they went after that with such vigor that they were like, wow, this peanut thing's really neat, but what if there was a giant robot? What if we just completely took the peanut butter thing out and turned him into a giant robot scientist because peanut butter's boring? And we'll name the robot Peanut Butter. And that way we'll keep a loose connection to the real history that was super boring. How insulting is that to a real person's life? Right? That's really boring. That's really boring of them to do, in fact. Let's use that word. That's a good word to use. And that's what they're dealing with right here is that they don't want to hear any talk back to that. That's harassment when you go saying, hey, I'm not okay with you taking a real man's life and rewriting it for profit.
This is not something we can tolerate. Yet the way they protect us seems to be through complete silence, both internally and externally, forbidding us as developers from having a voice publicly about our own games. After the announcement of Shadows and the variety of interviews that came with it, backlash started. At first, they tried to respond to some criticisms with a very corporate and unapologetic tone, which backfired.
I think what they mean was the sorry but no sorry statement. I think I'll put the link down below in the description.
So here it is. Whoops. Just zap back to that for a second. You remember this. This was their big, long write-up about, oh, we hired a whole bunch of historians, but we really didn't listen to them. But we have these cultural experts, but we really didn't listen to them. You know, they had all this back and forth conversation about, like, we didn't mean to piss off the Japanese, but we really kind of went out of our way to do that. Yeah. And we also, we don't want to, like, disrupt Yasuke's true history, but we did that. Yeah, we really actually did that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's basically what happened here is that, like, they went through and really pained themselves to come up with this corporate response that was like, "We're hearing that you don't like it, and we're sorry that you don't like it." And that was the end of it. You know, it was a whole bunch of fluffy language that really amounted to, "It's your problem, not ours." All right? Now, I wanna skip to the end of this where Shohei is talking about this person's, message to Ubisoft, their Dear Ubisoft message. So, here we go.
And this is also touching.
Viewers, you have the ultimate power to change the video game industry.
Viewers.
By buying or not buying a game, you send publishers a clear message about the kinds of games they should make in the future. Unfortunately, it takes years for the next generation of games to reflect your preferences. I know that internally, some projects currently in the conception phase are genuinely committed to fresher game design models for Ubisoft. Will those projects be approved for production? Will Ubisoft HQ influence the design to change into something more traditional? I do not know, but in such a big corporation, it will take at least another 2 or 3 years to see any changes learned from the failures of 2024. As a gamer and a fan of Ubisoft's older games, I feel conflicted, but I have to admit that I hope AC Shadows fails commercially, even if it means I might lose my job or have to suffer through Ubisoft being bought out by a corporation that could be even worse for us in the future. I am truly sorry if my discussion has caused pain for other employees, but I do not believe Ubisoft can heal and change for the better by itself.
And that is the biggest takeaway here from this whole discussion. Throughout all of this interview that Shohei has done with this insider, the continuing revolving point is that Ubisoft is not in a space where they're going to change. Now, we know that they're in talks with Tencent to just restructure the company. In some cases, the Gilmans have been talking about completely just dumping the Ubisoft company and starting something brand new with Tencent, just letting Ubisoft completely wither away and go away. So they haven't learned anything here. They haven't changed one bit. This whole backlash against them has been registered as nothing other than just people who are weird on the internet having weird internet opinions. For whatever reason, they've decided that even the commercial failure of Star Wars Outlaws is not indicative of their like current trajectory being wrong. And so that's what I want to leave you with today. Throughout all my barking about the USA, throughout all my barking about the history of abuse with Ubisoft and this culture, I really want to get back to like the core of it is that Ubisoft doesn't want to change. They're not interested in that. And I really don't think it's going to help the company to continue to ignore it. If you're an employee of Ubisoft and you're watching this, you know, maybe it's time to start something new. Now's a great market. Steam just banned a bunch of games off the marketplace on Steam for like having forced ads. So like there's a huge chunk of the library that's wide open right now. Maybe it's time to put something together. Doesn't have to be big and to show off what you can do. It can be just as simple as a neat twist on Candy Crush. Just make some scratch to get you going. That's all it takes. It's just something to get you going. Real simple, get you through the gate, and you can go on up from there. Look what happened with Game Science and Black Myth Wukong. For years, they were making mobile games, and one day they created a world-class AAA game. You can do that too, guys. You don't have to work for this mega corporation that's literally sucking the life out of you. I mean, listening to this person talk about this has been, it's crazy. It sounds like they were in some kind of like weird evil isekai dimension and they got hit by a truck and woke up in Ubisoft headquarters. You know what I mean? Like some dark dimension, where everything's upside down and backwards. So, again, let me know what you think down in the comments below. But as always, guys, good luck out there.